This is Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Scott Spears Now. And tonight, it's a twofer edition. We've got two of my favorite people on the program. Of course, host of Voice of the People on WGH Talk for the last 9.5 years. By the way, WGH Talk can be heard every Wednesday and Thursday morning from 10:15 a.m. until 12 noon. Download the TuneIn app, which is absolutely free on any mobile device. Search WWGH. And you can also listen on the website, wwgh1071.com. It's Linda Sims with us today, and sitting next to her is one of my favorite people. He was here just a few weeks ago. He is living Marion history, and on August the 2nd, just a few days ago, he turned 91 years old. We just had a great time at the fair. He's a legendary restaurateur, raconteur, done it all here in Marion, the legendary George Kasotis. Thank you both for being here today. It's always a pleasure to be with the both of you.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Scott. It's always a pleasure. What a pleasure.
George, tell us about 91.
A lot of years, a lot of fun, a lot of great times here in Marion, downtown, around town, all over town, east side, west side, whatever side. Sounds like West Side Story. Robbins and what's his name, Bob something. Anyway, I was just watching a little television before I came here, and it was all about dance. All the great dancers in the world, back from Fred Astaire and Ginger to Sid Charisse, one of the best in the world. I saw about 15-20 minutes of dance. And that's what I did when I was younger. I danced on the stage of the Palace Theater in many shows when Claire was a little girl. And then when she grew up, I danced with, she was my dance partner, Claire Cook.
Yeah, that's great.
And we danced at the Douse Dance Studios with my dear and Scott's beautiful friend,
Martha
Douse-Manesi. Oh my God, over the years. And Martha Douse and I were the ones that got to visit with Miss America.
Marilyn Metzke.
Marilyn Metzke. Oh my God, she was our first dance teacher. And that's when Martha grew up and was dancing because of Marilyn Metzke.
Absolutely.
So I've had a great life in all the 90 years that I've been around. And it's great to be in the 90s, but it gets a little tougher to get around. But hey, I just lost a friend. Sunday I went to his funeral. I got to tell you this. He was the one that borrowed, I didn't say steal, I said borrowed, Lady Justice.
Dick Carey.
Dick Carey. I went to his funeral, and it was a beautiful funeral at a beautiful funeral home, Stavchek Ballinger in Richwood. His son Rick wanted to do it over there in Richwood, and Dick Carey had that sign that he had on the back of on the side of his truck when he took Lady Justice to put it in his barn. But before he took it to the barn, he took it from the courthouse, parked in front of my Kagan Vine, came in, and we had a beer together.
So you were familiar with that?
Huh?
You knew he had it?
Oh yeah, I knew he had it. He told me.
Oh my.
And today, you should have seen it at the funeral. He had these signs on there. Wanted Dick Carey for stealing Lady Justice.
And Dick Dick was 91, wasn't he?
Yeah, he turned 91 on the 8th of July, and I turned it on the 2nd of August. We were just a month apart.
And he lived a good long life and a good happy life, and so have you, and you're going to be around forever, George. But when you do go 100 years from now, how would you like people to remember you?
Well, they always say, George, why don't you open up your restaurant again? Because the foods that we got, the shish kebabs with rice pilaf and Greek salads and gyros, gyros, whatever, that's not, even here, the new Greek restaurant is called Eat Greek. Yosef, I met Yosef, I talked to him, he's from Egypt, but he can't speak a word of Greek, but he said, George, in Alexandria, Egypt, there's thousands of Greeks, and they have Greek restaurants all over the place. So I grew up working in those Greek restaurants. I come to America, I opened one in Columbus, I opened one in Delaware, and my third one is in Marion. But the food is good, but it doesn't have, the baklava is dry. He doesn't have the moist baklava that I used to have. Because you loved my baklava sundaes.
Baklava sundaes.
Oh my
Most
God.
delicious thing in the world.
Oh yeah, you really like those, didn't you, Scott?
I do. It's my favorite dessert.
Okay. I'm going to do some more for you one of these days before I go.
I hope so, George, because that is the most delicious. How did the baklava sundae come to be?
Well, when I bake the big pan, the hotel pan, I get 80 pieces out of there. And then when I cut them, whether they're the square or the diagonal, always crumbs in the bottom. You know, when you're cutting pastries, you get a lot of crumbs in. So one time, this has been years ago, I got all of the baklava out of the pan, I scraped all of the crumbs together, and I just happened to think, I bet that would be good on ice cream. So I got a dip of ice cream and I sprinkled those crumbs all over. It was the baklava, the phyllo, the nuts, the honey, you know, on top of the ice cream. And that's when I came up with the baklava sundae.
The honey makes that. Oh, it's delicious.
Oh, and the honey. You know what? Back when the first Columbus Greek Festival started, I used to help George Psychoulios, who was head of the kitchen, and I used to work with him. And I told him about the baklava sundae, and I brought that to Columbus, and today they sell tens of thousands of baklava sundaes during the Greek festival in Columbus, Ohio.
Do you get a cut of that, George?
No way.
Oh, man.
I could have, I should have.
You should. That's always the way it goes, isn't it?
But the best story of all, the last story I'll tell, I don't want to take up all the time because Linda's here, and I love Linda.
Oh, thank you.
The first, second, or third popcorn festival, the parade used to come down South, and instead of State Street now, it comes down South Main Street. And I took a space from the alley clear down to here, halfway down the and I had Greek columns with umbrella tables, and I at Cafe George, and I had all of these people eating. And so one year, John Isley calls me, and he says, I want a center table. I've got 5 couples coming, 10 people, and we're going to eat and watch the parade. So at a table for 2 over here, they had ordered a baklava sundae. So I took the sundaes out, and John Isley said, George, what was that, an ice cream sundae you just heard? I said, yeah, what is it? I said, a baklava sundae. He said, make 10 of them. So I made 10 of them and served John Isley. John, in a glass ice cream dish, John Isley finished, he got up and took his spoon and hit the glass. He said, ding, 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 everybody listen. I'm John Isley of Isley's Ice Cream. George Kasotis just made me a baklava sundae, and it's better than any sundae Isley's ever made.
Wow.
What a compliment.
Well, I'd agree with John Isley on that, George. I have to agree with John. Now, Linda, when you hear these stories from, I mean, really legendary, this is a living landmark legend sitting next to us here. What's it make you think about being in Marion for so long?
It makes me think about the history and all that, you know, that is embedded into George. You know, he can tell us things that we really don't know about, you know. There's nothing like holding on to history and sharing it with other people and handing it down the line, you know, like your loved ones and your family members. And I know he has said some things I didn't really know that he was around or had a hand in or a part of. And that goes with the west side of town. I live on the west side of town as of now. And he remembers what all that was about. The Ace High Club, the people that lived out there, and the impact it had on our city and all that stuff.
Now, Linda, what was the Ace High Club for people who don't remember?
It was a bar, as I remember.
You better let me talk about that, because I was the one that started that.
Tell us what the Ace High Club was, George.
Well, early 50s. I think it was around 53, 54.
So I was only 1 or 2 years old.
There was a guy by the name of Charlie Kinsler. Kinsler and his brother Bill came from Indianapolis back in the late 40s. And this place was, it was a building, right on the corner of Senate and Hocking. Hocking runs across the front of it. Senate Street runs this way, okay? And this building was a long building, and it had 8 or 9 rooms upstairs, little small rooms, and at the end of the room upstairs was a shower, a big shower, had about 4 showers in there. And there was a lady named Smith and her son Clarence. Clarence graduated from Harding in the late 40s, and he was a great football player. He went to Ohio State too, but this was the late 40s. Mrs. Smith took care of those rooms. She cleaned them, and they were rooms to let. And you won't believe this. A lot of the trains that were coming from Indiana, Huntington, Indiana to Marion, a lot of these guys on the trains would go up and rent those rooms. Down below the building was a bar and a restaurant, and it was owned by Charlie Kinsler from Indianapolis, and it was called the Shantytown Bar and Grill. Shantytown.
Shantytown.
Because there's a shanty in a town on a little plot of ground that grows something around and around. It's a little old shack by the railroad track, and you'll always go back to the shanty town. That's the name of the song. Have you ever heard it?
I've never heard of that song.
Me either.
Shantytown.
Shantytown, there's a shanty in the town on a little plot of ground, and the green grass grows all around, all around. The wall's so tall, so lady tall. There's a lady sitting there in a rocking chair, just guzzling old, I can't remember the name of the beer.
He was guzzling something.
Guzzling on the beer, reading writing on the wall, and it's a great song, but you know who sang it? I think Louis Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
Louis Armstrong sang Shantytown, but that's back in the 40s and the 50s. That's crazy. But Charlie Kinsler said, George, he came up to the restaurant, my mother and I's restaurant uptown, and said, my wife, she's upset with Marion. She wants to go back to Indianapolis, and I got to sell my Shantytown. I said, okay. He says, can you come with me? So I went down there, and he had it stacked with people, giving them free drinks to make them think. And he says, I'm busy all the time. I got a good business. But I got to get out of here because my wife is going to leave me and she's going back to Indianapolis and I want to go with her. I said, well, how much you want for it? And he said, he gave me a price. I thought it was a little high, so I said, let me check. So I went up to City Hall, which is on Delaware Avenue, that yellow building. Remember when you were in the back?
Yes, yeah.
That was City Hall. So I went up there and I talked to the chief of police, Johnny Long, and I said, John, where's the records department? He took me to the records department, and I said, and I gave him the address on Hocking and Senate, the corner of Hocking and Senate, and they said, this building is going to be condemned. I said, why? Well, it's leaning over into Senate Street. Mm-hmm. I never noticed that because I didn't look. I was looking at the front door. I wasn't looking at the building. But anyway, after they gave me the record and gave me a copy of it, I took it down there, and I looked at it when I got out of the car. It was leaning into Senate Street. So I go in and I say, Charlie, I said, the city is going to condemn the building, and that has to be straightened up. That's going to cost a lot of money. He said, well, okay, well, what do you give me for the building? So I told him. It was a lot less. In fact, I stole it.
Oh, you got a good deal there.
I got a good deal. So
you bought Shantytown.
I bought Shantytown. Jack Keppen was a contractor back then. He's gone now. He died years ago. But Jack Keppen was the #1 construction guy in Marion. And he straightened that building up, repaired the inside, put in new restrooms. And I talked to Johnny Hill, who we used to call Johnny Goodblack.
Johnny Goodblack, I remember him
You
well.
remember Johnny Goodblack?
Yes, he was what, like 6'5", 6'4"?
6'5", 6'6".
Yeah,
always
big
had a
guy.
cigar in his mouth, and he had a gold tooth where he said it was his mother's ring. and the front tooth, Johnny always had that El Verso cigar. You never heard of an El Verso,
No.
but that was the #1 cigar back in the day.
Wow.
And he had a cigar in his mouth. 6'5", Big Johnny. He said, George, you bought this place, you fixed it all up. He said, I'm going to take care of it for you. He said, nobody's going to cause you any trouble. And I said, well, Johnny, what what, I don't want to call it Shantytown. What are we going to call it? He said, well, we like to play cards. I said, you like to play cards? I said, okay. Why don't you just call it Ace High Club? So Johnny Goodblack gave me the name Ace High Club.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what happened to Johnny Goodblack?
Oh, Johnny Hill died. His name was
Years
John
ago.
Hill.
Yes, yes.
You knew Johnny.
I knew him.
Now, what do you know? What do you remember of Johnny? What's it? Good luck?
Good black.
Good Black. What do you remember about Johnny Goodblack?
Well,
Linda?
because he was a good black man.
Oh, that's how he got the
And
name.
he
That's
was
where-
big.
Okay.
That's why they
Big,
called him that.
big,
He was
big man.
a very impressive personality.
And he had his mother's ring in his mouth.
And presence, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually remember seeing him.
Oh, yes.
And so you knew the man. The man,
Yes. I knew of him
Johnny
as well.
Goodblack, nobody ever messed with me. Even though there were some troubles every once in a while, especially the two brothers that would cause trouble all the time. And I hate to say this because their son, Charlie's son, is the treasurer of the city. What's his name?
Reese.
Harry and
Charles.
Charlie Reese. Harry and Charlie Reese, always causing trouble. Huh?
I'm not surprised.
Did Johnny Goodblack handle him?
Well, Charlie and Harry were sharp dressers, always had suits on. Harry worked at the Marion Power Shovel. Charlie didn't work. He
They
was
thought they were pretty men, didn't they?
Huh?
They thought they were pretty men, didn't they?
well, Charlie Reese always looked good. He always had a
I'm
beautiful
sure.
suit on, and he was a good-looking guy.
Yes.
But he was, he would promote things like, I don't want to say it, substitute, prostitute.
Prostitute. Oh, prostitution. There was a prostitution
Well,
ring
in
over
the
there on the west
days,
side.
in the-
Well, sure, back over on the west side.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Linda, did you ever see any of that going on over on the west side?
Never
Well-
saw it, but you know,
You knew about it.
I knew it.
Well,
Yeah.
You learned about it.
What did they call it? The red light district?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was there. It happened. So
Very
I might as well
prevalent.
say it.
That's history.
It's history.
That's
It is
history.
history.
We need to know that stuff.
And that's what Charlie was known for. And but Tommy is not going to say a thing about his dad. That's Tommy's dad.
I know.
No. What we're saying is that there was prostitution in that area at the time,
Yeah.
but we don't really know who was running this show.
Right.
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 But there was some of that going on.
Some of it going on.
So people have to draw their own conclusions as to what's going on.
Right.
Yes.
Well, there were red light districts in every city in the United States, probably back in the 40s and the 50s. Especially, with the Al Capone days and all that crap was going on.
That's the world's oldest profession.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can't be coy about that. Now, you mentioned a name, though, there, George, when you were going through former police chief John Long,
Oh, yeah.
who, unfortunately, he's in Marion history for meeting an untimely death, suicide at his desk. Isn't that correct? It's very sad times.
Oh, sad. Very sad.
Now, this is the late 70s, I believe.
Yeah,
remember that.
John Long was the chief. He was, everybody respected John Long. Great guy.
And it was shocking when that happened,
Yeah.
that he, unfortunately, committed suicide. Now, people can look this up. It was on the front page of the paper. Committed suicide while at his desk in, I believe it was either early or mid-70s.
Early 70s.
What do you remember about that, George? What was going on?
I don't want to bring that up.
It was a bad thing. It was a horrible time here in Marion.
I remember when that happened. I just didn't know why he killed himself back then.
It's just one of those things.
Just one of those things, one of those wonderful, beautiful times. Oh, no. Anyway, I don't want to bring that.
No, we won't bring that up. We'll talk during the break
Okay.
about that. But it is history. If you want to look it up, what was going on at that time and do your own paperwork. on that particular situation. It's kind of like the Dick Carey thing when you think about it, because Dick Carey stole Lady Justice and had her for 30 years, and when it was returned...
That long?
Yeah, a long
He
time.
had it for 30, at least 30.
30 years. And when he brought it back, he did not reveal that it was him who brought it back. He didn't reveal that till almost 30 years after it was back. So there's a lot of things in Marian history that, you know, you have to do some digging to figure out what was going on. But it's okay, because I think it all turned out okay in the end. I mean, we're all here. And Dick Carey ended up being very proud of being a part of the Lady Justice thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Got a lot of publicity from that, I'm sure, right?
Oh, he certainly did. Now, George, the one story I want you to tell, because we told it on the radio last time we were together, was your run-in with a mayor of Marion and a coffee urn.
Oh, you're talking about, okay, I just lost his name.
Gail Ireland.
Huh?
Is it Gail Ireland?
Gail Ireland.
Who was a bigger gentleman.
He was what?
He was a bigger gentleman, right?
You know, he was tall. He was 6'2", 6'3". Big guy.
Heavier guy.
Heavy set.
Yeah. Probably weighed what, would you say? Because it's important to this story.
I'd say 250.
250, okay. So what happens? He comes into your restaurant.
I got the counter. In fact, I had a stool counter back then in the 50s. And I was always fixing breakfast for guys, and a lot of them would have breakfast. A lot of them would just come in and have coffee. Farmers, downtown business people and everything. One day, I ran up to the Marion Bank to get some change, and he came in there. And he went, the first counter said about 6 stools, then there was an opening which you go behind the counter, and there's the coffee. I had a Curtis coffee maker with the pots. I had 3 pots here and 2 pots up here. I had 5 pots of coffee. And you made it by opening up the top and pouring in, make the grains and pouring in. Well, I had already just made a pot of coffee, but the urn cleaner, which is a ground, it's a cube, and you put it in there to clean the urn, okay?
Right.
Well, I just put that in there and cleaned it, and the urn, or the pot on the end had the urn cleaner in it. So he goes behind the counter, grabs a cup, pours the urn cleaner in there, and sits down, and he's talking to the guys, and he sips his coffee, and all of a sudden he goes, "Ah, ah, ah," and he's doing all kinds of screaming and yelling. I'm coming back from the bank, and I go in the door, and all these guys sitting at the counter saying, "The mayor's in the bathroom and he's vomiting." I said, "What?" So I go back here, he's down on his hands and knees, vomiting in the toilet. And so I got a bunch of towels and I wiped his face. He's a big guy. But look at me. I was 6 foot, maybe a little over 6 foot back in the 50s. I was 210 to 215 pounds. I grabs him, pulls him up, takes him on the side, throws him over my shoulder, and get a fireman's carry. Have you ever heard of a fireman's carry?
I have.
Throw him over my shoulders. And I carry him out the front door because my car was right in front, and I put him in the car and I took him to the hospital. Dr. Morton Olson happened to be in the emergency room, which was a beautiful doctor, 6'5", from Sweden, Dr. Morton Olson. And I said, "Morton," I said, "this guy drank some of my urn cleaner."
The mayor.
Well, I didn't say mayor, I said, "This guy, this jerk, drank urn cleaner and he's vomiting." He said, "I'll take care of him, George. You don't have to stay." So I threw him on this, whatever this thing moves, put him on there.
Gurney. Threw him on a gurney.
Yeah, and I left. Morton calls me, because Morton was my mother and I's family doctor, and my sister. And Morton calls me and he said, "That was nothing. It just irritated his throat a little bit, but he said he's all right." That election came up, that was like late September. That election came up in November. Was election in November?
November, yeah.
Election came up in November, and he loses his race. He loses his race. Oh, I remember that mayor that beat him. anyway, Ireland was a Democrat. The Republican guy beat him, who became a good mayor. And after he lost the election, the headlines in the Marion Star, it says, ex-mayor sues restaurant owner George Kasotis.
Right on the front page.
Right on the front page, headlines.
For, he said you poisoned him?
I poison. Yeah,
You
he used the
poisoned?
word poison.
That's terrible.
Whoa.
Terrible. You saved the man's life.
Well, I took him to Dr. Olson, and Dr. Olson heard him. So what I did was I called Cleveland to the coffee company, and I said, I got a mayor. Oh, by the way, the amount of money was $35,000.
Which back in what year was this? Would have been 50s?
Yeah, in the 50s.
That's a lot of dough.
Yes.
$35,000.
Today.
And that number was in the paper too. And if you want a copy of it, I got a copy.
I'll have to see that. I'll have to take a look at that. That's an interesting headline.
Anyway, I called the coffee company, Continental Coffee Company, big company. They serve coffee all over the country. And I said, I got a problem. Some mayor is suing me because he drank some of my urn cleaner. They sent an attorney from Cleveland to Marion, and we went to court. Judge Smith was the judge at that time. And I explained it, what happened, and the attorney took a box, had been opened, of these these little square white cubes, they're urn cleaners, and he took one and put it in his mouth and chewed on it and went, "Argh!" He said, that's terrible, but that is the urn cleaner that the mayor is suing George for. The judge hit the gavel and said, case dismissed.
And he was out.
He was out.
Now, did you ever make up with Gail Ireland after that?
No.
Never spoke to him again?
Never spoke to him again. He was not only the mayor, but he was a crook, a thief, and a bad, bad man. How he got, you know how he got elected?
No. How'd he get elected?
His name was Ireland.
Irish.
Oh my.
All the Catholics voted for him.
Oh, he was a... Well, now it's interesting, though, George, because he was the mayor at the time. So why do you think, clearly he was not poisoned, why did he sue you for $35,000? Just wanted money?
I guess that's what he wanted, money.
That's a terror. And here he was a man who had frequented your restaurant.
Well, he was a mover and a shaker. He would fool around with a lot of different pretty ladies.
Oh.
He would, yeah. I mean, he was married, but he screwed around with the other women.
So he'd probably been over at the shantytown at some point or another.
Did he come to the shantytown?
He might have, right?
No,
he wouldn't have came to the shantytown.
He'd stay away from him because I'd hit him with my sawed-off double shotgun.
You had one of those too.
I had a sawed-off double-barrel shotgun.
Okay.
So to this day, you still have that. Well, it's understandable that you have a grudge against Gail Ireland for suing you like that.
I don't know if he's still alive.
No, I think he's gone. But to put your name on the front page of the paper like that, a man who's doing business, that's terrible.
It is terrible.
But he just wanted money, and that was a mayor of Marion way back in the 1950s.
But you know what? My sales increased because they want to say, where's the cup that he drank out of? What did he drink? They would come in there and just say, George, you poisoned the mayor. That was big news.
It was a marketing technique.
It was.
You couldn't have paid for publicity like that. How about that?
More famous.
We've got George Kasotis and Linda Sims. We're going to take a short break. We're coming back. We've got a whole nother half hour to come. Great stories. Lots of fun here on Scott Spears Now. We're coming right back.
That's funny.
Gare Ireland's not.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Scott Spears back here on Scott Spears Now with two of my dear friends. Linda Sims, who's been hosting Voice of a People here on WGH Talk for the past 9.5 years. And of course, the legendary raconteur, restaurateur, storyteller galore, George Kasotis, who just turned 91 years old on August the 2nd. And we just learned, you got to back up the tape if you missed it. We learned of the alleged poisoning of former Mayor Gail Ireland at George's restaurant. We found out Gail Ireland, Mayor Ireland, was not telling the truth. And he tried to sue George, and it was on the front page of the paper. And just a big mess, but worked out in the end. The mayor did not get $35,000. Now, Linda, do you remember Gail Ireland?
I don't think so.
That was before you?
Yeah,
Possibly.
Now, when you look back on the history of Marion, what are some of the things you remember, Linda, that happened over on the west side?
Well, I lived over that area when I was in 3rd grade. I didn't like the school, Silver Street School. So I really didn't like the area. I didn't like the people because I didn't know them. And I was kind of like thrown over there, to go to school. So I was trying to basically get out of there. But a lot of my relatives lived on the west end of town. Like the Reeses, the Joneses, B. Frame, she lived out there, and trying to think of some more. Sims, my grandfather, he lived over in that area for a while, and also across over where the Elks Club was. And I don't know if it was established during the time of the beginning of the Ace High Club or not, but they did have a Black Elks Club on West Center Street, and used to go there for a while. And as I got older, used to hang out at the Ace High.
Now, what are your memories of the Ace High Club, Linda?
Well, I was married. Well, his aunt was married into our family, Georgia Sims, Willie Favors. I think he was working at the Ace High Club then, and we used to go out there and have a beer. They had a jukebox there, I don't remember live entertainment during that time, which George has shared with me that they had live entertainment and all that going on. But when I used to hang out there, they did not have that. And it was just a place to go, if you wanted a cold beer or meet somebody on a dance floor, we would go out there, but it was heavily populated at one time.
Now, George, when you had it, what was it like in there? What was the atmosphere at the Ace High Club?
At first, I didn't have live entertainment. I just had a jukebox. And I had a lot of different things I did. I tried to promote things, and so on the jukebox, I had a song that was unbelievable. It was I think, written and played by Xavier Cugat. Ever heard of Xavier?
I've heard the name.
And the name of the song was called, oh, come on, I just lost it.
No, my.
Poinciana. Poinciana, the love of life, da da da, sort of like a Latin tune. So I got to thinking, that song is so beautiful. People would play that song because they loved it. Mm-hmm. In fact, you won't believe this, the night that Bobby Floyd came to Marion, the first song he did, he played it for about a half hour. He kept ad-libbing.
Okay.
Poinciana.
Okay.
I took the name Poinciana and I said, why don't I make a margarita? So I started making pictures of margarita.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of margarita?
I've heard of margaritas.
It's a tequila drink with a lot of lemon and different spices in there. I made pictures of margarita, and I throw quarters after quarter after quarter in there and played Poinciana. And I'd sing, Margarita, la da 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 da, and I'd be pouring for $1 a drink, a big glass of margaritas. And people were every Wednesday and Friday, 2 nights a week, I'd have margarita night. And I got that from the song Poinciana. You've never heard the song?
I've never heard Poinciana. Now, is that the Christmas plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Poinciana. Kate Cugat wrote that song.
How about that?
Xavier Cugat. But did you go to Bobby Floyd's?
Yes, I did. I didn't see you there.
Well, I was in the back, but the first song he played was Poinciana.
All right.
And he did that up and down that scale. You know how Bobby goes up and down that scale.
Marvelous. He is marvelous. Yes.
Not the Ace High, but the Keg and Vine. When Bobby was 15 years old, Bobby came and his dad, Robert Sr., said, I had just got a new piano in, a Brumbach from Germany. And that piano, even Phyllis Miller, all of the different piano players in this town that played it said that's the best playing piano they've ever played.
Wow.
So Bobby Floyd Sr. said, Bobby Jr., you come up here. He was 15 years old. He came in the back door with his dad one night, and Phyllis Miller is playing the piano. You never heard of Phyllis Miller?
No.
She did all of the music at the Palace Theater
Okay.
under different directors for years before she passed away. She was the pianist, but she played her and Eddie came for lunch one day, and I had just got this piano in. I said, Phil, you got to come back and look at what I got. So I took Ed, and Ed was the director of the Harding Music Center,
Okay.
her husband. The whole Miller family were musicians. So they went back, and I said, Phyllis, this is called a Brumbach, and it's come from Germany. She said, what? I've never seen one like this. And so she started playing it, and she said, whoa, this is the nicest playing piano I've ever played. It's a very expensive piano, the Brumbach.
Sounds like it.
And she said, George, can I come on the weekend and play with my son on bass and my other son on drums? I said, the Phyllis Trio at the Kagan Vine? She said, yeah. So they came and played, and for years, she played in my bar for 15 years.
She loved it then.
Yeah, that was before the Ace High Club. No, that was after the Ace High Club.
Okay.
Because I sold the Ace High Club to Willie Favors.
Right.
Did you know that I sold it to Willie?
You told me that. I didn't know before you told me.
She mentioned Willie Favors.
Yes.
Willie Favors was my #1 bartender at the Ace High Club.
And you sold it to him so he could run this place.
Yeah.
So
But
what happened to the Ace High Club?
Good question.
it caught fire.
Oh, that'll do you in.
I don't know how it caught fire because Linda, you don't remember this, but the back bar was mahogany. And on each end of the bar, which was a long bar, was a mermaid made out of mahogany wood.
Oh.
A mermaid with a fish on the bottom, you know?
Right.
And the bust on the top. Oh, it was a beautiful bar.
Burned down.
It burned down.
Now, for people who are just tuning in now, where was the Ace High Club located?
Right on the corner of Hocking and Senate Street.
Hocking and Senate.
Senate runs east and west. No, wait. And Hocking runs in front. Right on the corner of Hocking and Senate.
Now, where was the Kagan Vine?
131 South Main Street, downtown.
Now, what is there now?
Marcella.
Yes.
Byries, called Byries from Buenos Aires, Argentina. The reason, everybody calls it Barry's, but the name Byries is from Buenos Aires. The people there got tired of saying Buenos Aires, so they took the B from Buenos, added it to Aires, and called their city Byries. All the people in Byries call their city Byries, not Buenos Aires. and Marcella, but still, you tell them it's Byries, they say, oh, berries.
Bears. Or they say bears.
Yeah.
Bears. It's Byries.
Yeah. But
Now, George, tell me, I mean, you were in a lot of the Follies and productions, and you danced with Marilyn Miskey and Martha Dowse and everybody here. What's your favorite song? We've heard some music here. What's your favorite song?
oh, there's so many great songs that in the past.
So you got 90 years, well, at least 80 years of songs to think about, right?
Yeah.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, there's so many beautiful songs, especially the one from West Side Story, Maria. Maria, I once was a girl named Maria. She da-da-da-da-da. That's a beautiful song.
That's a. Now, you were a Korean War veteran.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite patriotic song?
We're in the army now. We're not behind the plow. We're digging a ditch, you son of a gun. We're in the army.
And of course, my favorite song, we got to get this in, PS 117.
Oh my God.
Now this is good. Now I can almost tell the story now because Now, public PS 117 stands for Public School 117.
You're not going to want me to sing.
Yes, George. We
Every
got
time I come here, Scott Spears and George sing PS 117. I don't want to sing.
Everybody
PS.
loves it. It's love.
I'm not singing PS.
And it's hilarious.
And not today, right? Not singing it today.
Well, it's interesting because George went to school in the New York area, right, George?
Well, that's because my mother's oldest sister lived there, and my dad's sister lived there, in the Bronx, New York. And I was just a kid, first, second grade, and all of the schools in the Bronx, and I think all of New York, were numbers, no names. You know, like Harding High School or some name. They were all just numbers. It was easier to name school numbers. So my school was named 117.
Public School 117.
Cheer, cheer for 117. Our school is always supreme. Loyal sons of liberty, marching along to victory. Our standards are ever high. We will reach towards the sky. We will always stand right by dear old 117.
That's a wonderful song, George. You did it. You did it again. Wonderful, wonderful song. Now, see, I think if schools had those today, they'd have more pride. Don't you think so, Linda?
I think
I
so.
would want to think that, yes.
Because when you hear a song like that, doesn't it get your blood moving and things cycling around?
Songs, that's what makes this country, you know?
Yes, yes.
God bless America, all the American songs that they
Yes.
made over the years. Oh, songs are that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, no, music is great. Now, what type of music do you like to listen to in 2023, George?
I like a good jazz pianist that can play songs like Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, and, you know, up and down the scale. Bobby Floyd does that. You ever heard of Bobby Floyd?
Oh, I've heard of Bobby Floyd, yes.
Have you ever heard him play?
I don't think I've ever heard him play, but he won a Grammy, didn't he?
It's an experience. He was nominated for one.
Nominated for one.
As well as Bill Sims also. But Bobby he's a genius on that keyboard. You would just have to listen to him. There's just no ending to his keys.
What's Johnny, the church?
What church? Mount Zion Baptist Church?
No, the church.
Mays Temple?
Johnny Mays.
Yeah, Johnny Mays. Mays
And
Temple.
his wife have a piano-playing son.
Oh, yeah, LaCosta Mays.
LaCosta.
Mm-hmm.
There is a kid that's coming up.
Yes.
He was the one that played the piano before Bobby
Yeah, he
came
opened
on.
up for Bobby, yes.
LaCosta Mays. The Mays Church down in the west side. Mays is...
On Bennett
you ever
Street.
heard of
Yes, Mays Temple.
Mays
Yes.
Temple? Johnny, the son, and his wife have a son named LaCosta.
Yes.
And he was the front guy that played before Bobby Floyd. And that young... God, he can't be what? Is he 20?
Oh, yeah, he's 40
Oh, is he 40?
at least.
LaCosta's is 40, and that kid can play.
He's going places.
Yeah.
Going places. Now, Linda, I think about a person who we talk about all the time, Sister Earlene Hatch.
Yes.
How is Sister Hatch doing last time you connected with her?
As far as I know, she's doing well. She has had her health challenges, but Mother Hatch is a fighter, and she's still in the land of the living. Praise God for that. I went to some type of, it was a seminar at the Harding Hotel where there was a seminar about racism and democratic racism over in Marion, right? And they had pictures of her and how she stood in the past for civil rights of blacks in Marion, Ohio, as well as Mary Houston. But even though they were fighting for the same thing, somehow they would always clash.
Oh, they had a clash.
Oh yeah, they would always clash. You know, like one was doing something the other one didn't like. You know, but they were still fighting for the same thing. And how is that possible when you're fighting for the same thing and you're upset with one another, right? So I don't know. It was a spotlight thing or I don't know, but Erlene Baskin Hatch was a very educated woman. She has degrees. She was the first Republican I knew to be a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Republican, yeah, she was Republican. And you said, well, Republicans have money, right? She said, well, I got money, so okay then, we'll be that.
Now, she was a nurse.
She was a nurse, yes, she was. And she just knew people. She knew how to relate to people. She could connect with people. She may have never seen you before, but she knew how to go up to you and say, well, what's your name? You know, and ask you been saved, what church you go to, who your mom and dad is. She's so charismatic as a woman and a leader in this community of Marion, Ohio. And she put out a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this city. You know, it's sort of like when she left this city, she started, you know, going down. But she worked hard for Marion, Ohio. She really did. And you know, her husband was the CEO of Quaker Oats.
Yeah. So what was his name?
Bill.
Bill.
Bill Hatch.
Bill Hatch. Now, George, did you know Sister Hatch very well, Erlene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was a moving and shaking type of woman.
She was.
Mover and a shaker.
Mover and a shaker.
She's not in her 90s, is she? She's in the 80s, isn't she?
I think she might be 90. She's right around there.
Yeah, I know. We're close in age, but I thought she was just a year or two younger than me.
She might be.
88, 89. I don't know. But Erlene was, great. She was great. One of the best black men, well, besides Johnny Goodblack, he was always the best.
Okay.
But there was a guy at the Y back in the 40s and the 50s that he massaged people.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, I can't think of his name, but that guy, that's before your time.
Possibly.
Yeah, Linda, was before your time. There was a black man that did massages at the old Y, the one that's where the bus station is now.
Oh, okay.
Marion Bus Station
Right.
on State Street.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first Y.
Oh, it was.
That was the first YMCA.
Wow.
Back in the 40s.
Okay.
And this black man was the masseuse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, he'd put you on a table, and there was steam. He had a steam room. He put you on the table and massage you. Oh my God!
History.
You felt like $100 or $1 million, not $100, but $1 million after he massaged your back and your neck, and he was good at that. I hate to tell you this, but he was blind. He was a blind man.
Really?
Yeah.
A blind masseuse.
About blind masseuse at the old YMCA. And
That's something.
I got pictures of that YMCA and in the 20s. In the 20s and the 30s.
You know, George, recently I was in the old Ohio Theater, which is next to the Elks downtown. Now, the stage is still there, and the curtain's still there, and the piano, the grand piano, is still on the stage. But that's about it now. What was that theater used for when it was active?
That was a movie theater. It was a stage, and we did stage plays on that stage. We did them at the Palace, and we did them at the Marion Theater. It was called the Marion. What was it called? The Marion
The
Theater?
Ohio Theater? Was it the Ohio?
The Ohio Theater. There was a
Yes.
Marion Theater, too, which was next to Carol's Jewelry Store. The old Carol's Jewelry Store, which was next to that building on the corner, where Lois Fisher bought it. It was a department store. What was the department store, Linda?
Frank Brothers?
Or Euler's.
Euler's, and then right next to Euler's was a building, and it was called Carol's Jewelry. Harold Carroll was the owner. When Lowell came to town, he worked for Harold. And then when Harold died, and then the son took over, and the son didn't want the business, Lowell bought it. and kept the name Carol's Jewelry. But right next to Carol's Jewelry Store was the no, there were 4 theaters. There were 4. There were the Palace, the Ohio, the Marion, and the State. The State Theater.
All downtown.
All downtown. The State Theater was right next to the parking lot of City Hall parking lot, where the alley is. The first room, well, it was that building was tore down, and a brick building is in there now. But that was called the State Theater, and it was owned by Charlie and Dorothy Setos, Greek people.
Put that over here, George.
Yeah, Greek people, and they had these velvet curtains when you paid your fee, which was like 25 cents, and then you go into the theater. There was these velvet curtains. There was somebody there that would spread the curtain apart, and you'd walk in, and then they'd pull the curtain back. And the old story was that you could get a free shoe shine because the rats would run across.
That's quite a theater.
Oh, the State was known for that, but Charlie tried to keep that down, and Charlie and his wife Dorothy, they used to come to my restaurant and eat. I think everybody that worked downtown came to the Crest restaurant before the Keg and Vine. It was called the Crest Restaurant back in the late 40s. We started there in 1942. That was started in 1942.
And the Home Cafe was before that.
The Home Cafe was before that. That was in the late 30s.
So you were around for a long time, George. Now, when did the Cafe George close up?
Cafe George?
Your last restaurant.
208.
208. So from the late 30s to through 2008, you were in the restaurant business.
Wow, that's a long time.
Almost 70 years.
70 years.
Long time.
Then you were the maitre d' at Steve Dakota Grill.
That's when I sold 208. Joanne and I went out to the old Steve Dakota's, and Mike was there. Mike Severus was there, the owner. And I was eating, and the manager came over and said, "Mr. Severus is back there. He wants to talk to you." So I went back after I ate and talked to him, and he said, "I never met you, but I know you were in the restaurant business for all those years. Why don't you come and work with me in my kitchen and show my chef some tricks of yours?" I said, "I just got out of the restaurant business. I'm not going back in the restaurant business." I said, "Forget it." And I walked away. I didn't know him. So I sat back down with Joanne, and he came back over to my table and said, "I'm serious. I want you to come and help me out." and so I said, "Let me think about it." So I left, and about 2 weeks later I was in there again, and he came over after the manager called him from his other restaurant is in, what's that one before Mansfield?
Ontario?
Ontario. He has a big one in Ontario. And so he came over.
Steve Dakota's, yes, I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. In Ontario?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He works over there at that one a lot.
Okay.
And so he said, "I want you to help April in my kitchen." So April and I worked together for 1 year. And I showed her some of my tricks, different cooking things. And I said, "Mike, I'm leaving." So I started to go out the door. He grabbed my arm and he said, "Look," he said, "you know everybody in this town. Go home, get your tuxedo on, the tuxedo thing.
Yep.
Come back here and stand at the door and greet people. I'm going to pay you for that." Joanne happened to be with me, and she said, "You're going to pay him to talk to people?" He talks to people all the time for nothing. I mean, he tells stories, he does this, does that. Anyway, I said, "Okay, Mike, I'll do that." So I got my tuxedo on and my flower, and I'm standing at the door every weekend, opening the door, and people coming in and saying, "Steve, how are you?"
I thought you were Steve.
Yeah.
Because you had the tuxedo and you were greeting them there.
Yeah, so they thought I was Steve, but I didn't want to embarrass them, say my name is not Steve. I said, good to see you, people, good to see you.
You went with it.
You rolled with it.
Yeah, I rolled with it, and I'll tell you, we'd fill up every weekend. We're just standing in room only, you know.
And how long did you do that, George?
3 years.
3 years as the maitre d'.
Yeah.
Now, what has retirement been like for you? Not doing maitre d' work, not in the restaurant business?
Well, I keep busy helping Joanne and my son clean the house, cook food. My wife and my son both can cook, but I still do my little things that I do well. And I've learned to make mac and cheese unbelievable, better than all the other ones, whether they're Bob Evans, whether they're all these different restaurants. They don't know how to do that.
What's the key to a good cook? What if you were teaching somebody one thing, you could teach them one thing on how to be a good chef, a good cook, what is it?
Temperatures of cooking, whether it's with the water and what you add to the water, because a lot of people just have water, but they don't think about adding lemon juice. Remember I told you about
Lemon juice and olive oil.
Olive oil and lemon juice. If you add these different herbs and spices and lemons and oils and things while you're cooking, the flavor comes out and it tastes good. That's why one of the biggest directors ever at the Palace Theater was called Eula Watts. You remember that name?
I do remember that name.
Every weekend, I used to, outside on the table, I was the first one downtown to do, what do you call it, dining, outdoor dining? What's that Italian name for that? I forgot it. Anyway, I had a big table out in front, and she usually had 12 people, a dozen people come, and they would sit out there, and I would fix shish kebabs and rice pilaf and a Greek salad for those people. And then while they're eating, I had a speaker out in front. I would put on my record, boom, bada bum, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, and then a belly dancer would come out over here, and a belly dancer would come out over here. Chum, chicka, chum, chicka, chum, chicka, chum, chicka, chum. Belly dancing downtown Maryland. Cars would go by and stop. I mean, there'd be 20, 30 cars out there watching these belly dancers. No traffic.
It was nonstop. It was nonstop. Linda, we've got about 2 minutes left here. When you hear all this Marion history, what's it make you think of?
There was a good time going on in Marion, Ohio back in the day, and hopefully they can recapture some of those things of old and bring them to the city today.
That's the best. Please.
Yes.
That's the best.
And I went down State Street earlier today, and it seems like they were trying to recapture the old Ohio Theater.
Yeah.
We used to go there. Is that what they're doing, George?
That's what they're doing, recapturing
Okay.
We'll
it.
see what could happen. It could be something big, the
Yes,
start of something big, like
yes.
Steve Allen used to sing.
Great.
George, we got 1 minute. What would you want people to know about you and your time? 91 years so far.
That we had a great time. We had great food, great times, good wines. Less money than today. I mean, today's prices are really exuberant. Back then, when I started the first restaurant downtown Marion, you could get a big hamburger and a cup of coffee for 15 cents. And look at it today.
It's way up there.
Way up there.
But you know what? You can still have fun with Linda Sims and George Kasotis, two of the best people you ever want to meet. This has been a fun episode. George and Linda, what fun we've had. For this episode, this is Scott Spears heading for the dugout.
Bye.